So I'm a small business owner. Are URLs even important on the website? I think like when you look at URLs, they just seem pointless to I think most people. Like, are they even important?
Yeah, no, they most certainly are. Um, and this is one of the most common mistakes that I see a lot of people make when they come ask for SEO help or something. Like, I'll go into their website and look at their URLs, and I'll just be like, oh, like because people don't think they're important. It's a complete afterthought, but it's one of the most important things that I feel you can do aside from creating like just good quality content. URLs are right up there.
Mm,
And so a lot of times what happens is people they'll be in like Shopify or Squarespace or whatever and they already have some pages made and they want to create a new page and they'll hit duplicate. And what those platforms will do is they'll duplicate the URL but put like dash copy or dash one or if you're in
yeah,
Shopify sometimes it might put in the product ID so it'll just have a random string of numbers, right?
right.
So it's very simple because all you have to do is put in the title of the page. Like that's all you have to do. Like nothing else. Like just put in the dang title. like and you can remove some of those filler words like and the and of just to make it as short and concise as possible.
Why
And
do you find that important?
well, so Google will look at the URL and if it's crazy long, and a lot of those filler words make it a lot longer, right?
Yeah.
But if it's crazy long, they might see it as a little spammy. And so they'll go in they'll look at the URL and say, this seems a little spammy. I don't know if I'm going to rank this very high, right? But if you do nice, concise, short URLs with relevant content that's reflective of what's in that page, it's just going to help you. It's going to help Google understand better what your page is about. And it's going to give them a little bit more confidence to Google to rank your page a little bit higher.
That makes sense. So I know that I've built Squarespace websites for quite a few years now. And every time let's say you get your homepage set up or the about page set up and you just want to copy that page over because you like the template, the first thing it does is it copies that URL, like you said at the beginning, and it says -1. You want to make sure you change that. Like it's okay to copy that template,
Totally.
that page, and then change the page to whatever you need. But you need to make sure that if you're changing, the about page to a list of your services you offer, you want to change that to not about -2, even though it's your services. You want it to say
Right.
whatever your website is dash services.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, it's just about you make it as natural as you can, right? Google is all about making things natural. You're not trying to game the system because what a lot of people do is something called keyword stuffing, to where, like, say you were selling men's shoes or just shoes in general, and you want to create a URL for a certain shoe, and you type into the URL, you put shoes / men's shoes / active shoes /
Red
like you just
shoes
kind of
slash
red
yeah,
shoes,
right.
like you're just stuffing in the keyword shoes a bunch of times to help manipulate Google to rank you higher for those keywords.
And does that work?
No, in fact, that could actually have the opposite effect of what you're trying to do. Like Google might see that and be like, no, these guys are clearly trying to manipulate me, and so then I'm gonna just not rank them as well.
So basically, you want to play within Google's rules or parameters, and you don't want to go to the point where you're like trying to manipulate it as much,
Right.
because then they'll see that.
Yeah, you want Google to understand the web page and your website, the structure of it, and there's great ways to do that by just telling it what it's about. So if you're selling men's shoes, you could do something like yourwebsite.com/men's shoes /activewear or active slash
Trail running,
yeah,
like
yeah,
be specific, but you still have it be unique, where
yeah,
it's not
and you're
repetitive.
not trying to stuff in like the same keyword over and over again.
That makes sense.
Just kind of make it a logical flow. But when you do that, you also for your next product, you want to make sure you're following that same structure. And that gives Google kind of a clue on how your website is structured so that it can better understand it.
Makes sense.
Now, that doesn't change Google's ability to find that page on your website. So like you can have a page on your website, but if you're not linking to it at all, Google's most likely not going to crawl it. Like that's all kind of a separate topic of internal linking to where you're linking to the pages on your website.
Okay.
Which typically is not a problem most of the time, but it is worth mentioning that if I don't link to that page, Google doesn't really know that it exists because it's just following links. Like that's what they do. It's called crawling your website, and they do that on a bunch of websites. And they'll look at like, sorry, this is going to go too in depth there, but like say someone on the web links to your website. When they're crawling their website, then they'll go to your website because they link to you, and that's link building and another topic as well.
Yeah, right.
But it's super important to have clear, concise URLs. Avoid using those random numbers or characters, underscores. Like if you're going to use anything, use dashes instead of underscores.
There's a big difference between the two?
I don't know if I'd say it's a big difference, but way back in the day, people used to use underscores a lot, but now you hardly ever see them, and you always see dashes or forward slashes. I think I get forward slashes in back.
I think it's forward slashes.
Yeah, forward slashes. That's the language of URLs these days.
So let's say I have a product and I want to change the name of that product, whether it's going through a rebrand or whatever. So I'm changing the page of the name of that page to a different URL, right? I'm changing the URL. Do I just change it and it's perfectly fine? I just leave it. All I have to do is go through and change it. What's the best practices for that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So if you change the name of a product, you'll want to check with whatever platform you're on to see if it automatically updates the URL. It might have the same URL, so you might have to manually go in and change the URL.
Okay.
And in platforms like Shopify, if you change the URL, there's a little checkbox that'll appear and say, do you want to create a redirect to go from the old URL to the new? And you always want to make sure that that's checked. That's called a 301 redirect. It's letting Google know.
So if there's any like links outside of, like you were talking about earlier, if somebody else is linking, let's say we'll stay with the shoe topic, and you have a bunch of shoes for sale, and you want to whatever, and you're on some list from some other websites, it's like top 10 shoes,
right? And
they're linking to the specific link, and then you just change that link.
Yeah,
that would be bad. So you can redirect that original link to the new link,
right?
And it kind of fixes all that.
It does to some extent, yes. Like it does let Google know, hey, you have this page in your index, but it needs to go to this page. Yeah. Ideally, you would contact the website that's linking to your old page and say, hey, here's a new updated site, right?
But that's unrealistic a lot of the time.
Yeah, a lot of times that can't happen. And so the next best thing you can do is create those 301 redirects to say, here's the new page, here's the old URL, here's the new. And that gives you some SEO benefit, and so that you're not just dropping off the face of the earth for that. So I think all of those things, all of those URLs, tips and tricks, they're just going to help Google understand your website better and be able to rank it higher in the search engine results pages. Hey everyone, thanks for joining us on our Launching Pros podcast. If you like what you've heard, we are available on all of the popular social media platforms, on YouTube, podcasts. Please subscribe and follow us on those channels.
And share this with anybody that would benefit from hearing the news, the advice, or the tips that we're giving here on the Launching Pros podcast. We're here to help you grow and scale your business.